Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Cracked Wide Open. I appreciate you for being here with me today. I'm Star. I've been creating a safe, peaceful place and an environment for all of us to gather in oneness and share our experience, strength, and hope with one another in consciousness. So if that's something you'd like to hear about, stick around, share the video with your friends, comment below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, why the heck not? Please subscribe. I want to do the singing bowl for a second and allow people to come in and clear the space a little bit if you'll allow me. So if you'll take a deep breath. Nice deep breath. Take your time. Oh, that feels so good. Pure consciousness. Thank you so much for allowing me to do that. It just clears the energy, clears the space, and opens up consciousness to come in and share with us today. So today I kind of want to touch on thoughts and emotions, on ego and the core really of what ego is, the egoic mind and how it operates. Our belief systems, in a way, if you will. Now, this is meant to be educational only, so I'd like to just get that housework out of the way. This is my journey through my spiritual awakening, and I am in no means, way, or shape, or form trying to change your beliefs or get you to believe in something or change your mind about anything. This is just my journey through my awakening and what Spirit is asking me to share and manifest through this vehicle. That's it. This teaching is what's being channeled through me, actually, and I am simply just the vehicle in which to deliver it. That's it, nothing more. Nothing unique about me, nothing special about me. So welcome back to my channel again. Buckle up, settle in, share the video, please, so we can have as many sentinel beings enter the space that would like to enter the space. Many want to and don't have an opportunity to because they can't find that kind of information. So it helps when we share the content. So Cracked Wide Open is starting to begin, baby. So again, if you don't know who I am, I'm Star Delta 9. This is a multifaceted channel, and this is just one of my contents that I'll be putting up. If this isn't something that you want to hear, please follow the description content below and don't be disrespectful to the sentinel beings who are here to hear that content. It's not appropriate, and it's not the platform for it. I really, really do appreciate that. So first, I'm going to ask you to try not to analytically understand consciousness, okay? It's not something you can understand analytically. It's a feeling, okay? That's why when you see me and I'm rocking, it's a feeling. And this feeling emanates from inside of me outwardly, okay? It's almost as if It's almost as if spirit has plugged me into a outlet and I am reverberating like a cat and I'm being rocked. Okay. And that is all feelings. It's not something I can label, explain on an analytical level that you will understand. If you try to understand this on an analytical level, you will just become further confused. It's simply a feeling. And so today, what I want to do is I want to be talking a little bit about structures and forms today surrounding thoughts and emotions, okay? The egoic mind, right? The egoic mind is completely conditioned by our past, and it consists of a structure and content, okay? Let me give you an example. I've used this example before in my videos. Take a child. You give that child a toy, okay? He keeps that toy for a week or so, 2 weeks or so. He does something wrong, and you go to discipline the child and you take the toy away. What happens when you take it away? If you'd like to leave a comment in the comment section below, I would love it. Thank you all so much for strolling in. What would happen if I took that child's toy away? I'll wait a second. I'm not really waiting. I'm just sitting in consciousness. It's quite profound. The child begins to suffer, is what happens. He begins to cry. He begins to throw a tantrum because that's his toy, right? He's identified with it. That's considered content, form, the toy, okay? You see? It's mine. It's mine. The toy becomes the child's content that he identifies with, right? And so I also ask you to keep in mind that content is also interchangeable with other objects and content. That's why I have been saying when you seek happiness, joy, and love in people, places, and things, those people, those places, and those things are considered content. Okay? So the content can be interchangeable. That's why when you get something and you think it's brought you happiness, bliss, and joy, and the shiny new Corvette has outworn its sparkle, so to speak, you're off to the next best thing because you're searching for that content that's going to find you this consciousness, this happiness, this joy, this bliss. You see, the content you identify with is conditioned. It's conditioned by a few things. It's conditioned by your environment. It's conditioned by your upbringing. It's conditioned by your culture. It's conditioned by your religion, your background, etc., 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 childhood traumas, etc., 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 pains, woes, right? Most people are identified with most people are identified with a voice in their head. I know I was. It would never shut up. It was habitually talking to me. I don't care if it was because I was washing my hair wrong, or if I was driving differently, or putting the trash cans on the different side of the curb. My ego would bark at me with the voice in the head. That's the egoic self. Oh, it's involuntary. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing because of the profoundness of it, because it's involuntary and it's completely compulsive. That it's completely compulsive thinking, and emotions accompany this and come right along with it. right? And then right along with those emotions come along a response. And generally that response creates negativity, suffering, or pain in our life. And we say, why does that keep happening to me? You're not aware you're doing it. That's why they call it unconscious, because it's unconscious. And as long as you're unaware of this, you think the thinker, the voice in the head, the thinker, to be who you are. That's the ego mind. That's the ego. That's the egoic. That's the nature of the ego. It's the egoic mind doing that. You know, there's a sense of in the egoic mind, in nature, in the sense of it's egoic in nature because there's a sense of self or I in it, right? Ego, right? It's in every thought, every emotion, every opinion, every interpretation, every reaction. 25,000 years is a long time. I need Jesus and chi or something. I am feeling I will never die. You are never going to die, my darling. You have everlasting life. And that's what's so beautiful about it. When you sit in consciousness, you will realize you're not dying. You're never dying. The vehicle in which we house, yes, it's going to decay, just like a car you drive. You buy a car, and what happens? It begins to decay, and if you don't replace the car, then it falls apart and it's gone. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, Jesus said, didn't he? Right? Right? So, I'm sorry. I'm not laughing, you guys. I feel like Spirit has, again, plugged me into an outlet this morning, and I am like a machine. It's pure consciousness without thought. It's nirvana. It's bliss. And we're going to be on this earth as long as possible. But here's the problem with that, Leslie, is that there is not enough awareness in the collective consciousness to overcome the negativity thus far. And that's part of the reason I'm doing the teachings that I'm doing, because I think it's extremely important, because the thing that I'm explaining, the thing that I'm trying to teach you, to try to teach everybody, including myself, is that there is no separation. When you have a spiritual awakening, the first thing you're going to realize is that you are the culprit of your problems, no one else. You are the one that creates the karmic cycle of repeating itself over and over and over and over again, because you're not learning the lesson that Spirit wants you to learn to evolve. Therefore, you're going to keep repeating that cycle, karmic cycle, samsara, suffering, until you gain the wisdom and knowledge of not repeating that cycle and ending it with you. And you're the only one that can do it. I can't do it for you. No one can do it for you. Only you can do it for you. And it's not by judgment that I say that, because I have the heaviest pain body that you could ever find. I've told you, I was chained to a fire hydrant 30 miles away. And so our journey is just that. It's personal. Oh, God, Spirit has got me plugged into an outlet this morning. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. So I want to just tell you to try to understand some of the concepts that I'm speaking about and not wrap your head around the consciousness itself. Just listen to some of the concepts that I'm talking about. Okay. And maybe those will help, right? Because the core of all my mind activity, it consisted of repetitive persistent thoughts, and those thoughts created an emotion, and those emotions created a reaction in my body. And those reactions generally were negative, harmed me, or caused me to suffer and repeat it. And even some reactive patterns that I identified with very, very strongly. You know, that's why I say I was tied to a fire hydrant down the street, because some reactive patterns we were raised with in our environment, in our upbringing, those patterns are very strongly and deeply embedded. They're deeply seated within. I call the ego, the entity, I call it an entity. Because it's forever facetious. It's always hungry, right? And it's crazy. The ego and the content, it's going to vary between person to person, right? Of course, based on their environment, their upbringing, according to their story, right? Yada, 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 like I mentioned. You know you're negative. I want a pain body. I went away. It went away 3 years ago. How did it go away? You dissolved the pained body. You had a spiritual awakening then, and you are dissolving the pain body right now, darling. That's what's happened. It's not that Jesus says, hey, you're being healed to live a long time. He says, I'm going to heal your bodies, your pain body, your psychological bodies, your mental processes, so that you can come back to oneness, to wholeness, to consciousness, to your creator. And you can have happiness, joy, and bliss. This isn't Jesus. This is spirituality and awakening. This is your creator. Jesus is, I mean, come on now. Jesus, he healed you of that. That's what God does. That's what God does. But I don't want to talk religion, because I don't really think this is based around religion, although I think religion has its point and its place, and it serves its purpose, right? I'm not highly religious. I never have been. I have been extremely spiritual, though, my entire life, and very esoteric. And if I read the Bible, it talks about Christ's esoteric teachings by Jesus. So maybe that's the gifts, part of the gifts that God wanted created or manifested through this vehicle, right? There are different things that are being manifested through different people, right? And the ego, I want to continue with the topic. The ego operates the same in everyone. And yet, how do I say that? It lies on the surface. It operates the same as my neighbor, as you, as me, as everybody else. It doesn't operate any different from you to me. It's the same. And it lives on the surface. Deep down, most people feel, I know I did, separated. And they identified with form and content. I did. The voice in the head, the egoic mind. I did. My beautiful souls, deep down, that is not who you are. You are pure consciousness, the essence of consciousness. And when this happens, you will know. No one will need to tell you. You know. You're rocking in bliss. I call it sitting in the kingdom of heaven with my creator, seeking his face, negating myself. That's what I call it. And when action is required on my part, going to work, getting gas for my car, going to the grocery store, getting to point A to point B. It's simply an action. And when it's done, I'm back sitting in the kingdom of heaven with my creator. Because I no longer operate on the egoic mind. The ego is dying and dead. It's dead. It's actually dead. It's quite beautiful. I do have, although they're occasional, tiny bouts of where the ego wants to try to renew itself. And I'm going to get into that. So let's talk a little more. Any questions thus far? Someone tried to save you. Well, that's probably the first thing. No one's going to save you except you. You have to save yourself, right? Faith without works is dead, I think. I don't know. The ego operates the same again in everyone. And yet it lies on the surface, right? And deep down, most of us think or thought that we were separated and we identified with some form or some content, right? Or some way of being. And there is no separation. It's just oneness. It's just pure consciousness, unconditional love, joy, and peace. It's beautiful. People say to me, here's a couple examples I'll give you where it is so profound that people that know me and have known me for years, that they take a double take. I'll be standing in the bank and COVID-19 is going on, and the teller will say to me, "I'm sorry I kept you waiting." And I said, "I wasn't waiting. I was just enjoying the morning. I wasn't waiting." I don't recall the exact words I said to her, but I told her I wasn't waiting. And she double took. And my girlfriend with me, she's like, "Girl, you would have never done that." And I said, "I'm not the same person that I was 2 years ago. You're not the same person you were yesterday. You're not the same person you were 5 seconds ago. What happened a second ago is gone and you can't get it back. You can't show me the past. You can't show me the future either. Can you? No." I believe totally in God. I am an angel, and I believe in God. God is our creator. God is a label, though. God is a label someone has placed on our creator. It could be God, it could be source, it could be Jesus, it could be the doorknob. I mean, what do atheists say? What do Christians say? What do Catholics say? Those are strictly labels. That is a construct. That's a label. It's simply a label that some man-made religion placed upon our creator and said that is God. And God has a beard and a mustache and he lives in the sky and he's going to atone you for your sins. Not true. So deep down, we always felt, I know I did, I felt separated and I identified with form, me, my, right, or content. And I didn't realize that wasn't who I was. And when I had my spiritual awakening, now I sit in consciousness, pure consciousness, the unmanifested, unconditional love and joy and peace. And that's why I say it's not something you can analytically wrap your mind around, because you cannot explain it. You can't explain it to where you're going to analytically understand, right? It's pure consciousness. And and you have to remember, this is individual. It's personal, because every single person is on their own journey, and everyone's ego is struggling to survive, to protect itself, to make itself bigger, to renew itself. It's an entity that grows. Remember, I told you guys, I call it the Judy Jetson robot. It's a monster with an insatiable amount of hunger that you can never fill up. Right? It wants more and more and more and more, and it will take down its host. right? And you are its host. So it has to uphold that I thought. It needs its exact polar opposite of thought to uphold it, to empower itself, to make it stronger, you see. You see? It's like it's like complaining. Let's say it's like complaining, for example. It's one of the ego's favorites. Why? It's a strategy it uses to strengthen itself. Every complaint you have becomes a story. Me, my, I, my story. My view, my opinion, my upbringing, right? My story. It really doesn't even matter if you complain out loud or if you complain just in your head in silence. It does and means the same thing. The same thing occurs. Thoughts are energy, my friends. I've been telling you this. I've been telling you this. Remember that. Try to keep that in mind. Thoughts are energy. It does not matter if you say the words aloud or not. You can say them aloud, you can say them in silence, or you can say them in the mind's eye, and the same thing is going to occur. You are going to strengthen, renew, and revalidate the ego and your point of view, your story, because by God, you're right, and they're wrong. They're less than, you're more than. It's a label, it's judgment, it's nothing more than your story. Maybe you're tired, darling. Well, that's a beautiful thing. I wish I was told that. I mean, even in your mind's eye, it doesn't matter. It's the same. The complaining, the resentments we hold, the fears we have that are so deeply seated, our core beliefs that we were taught, the trauma, the wounding that occurred as a child, all of it plays a role. Resentments, that is simply an emotion that goes without complaining. The mental labeling of people adds even more energy to the ego. It loves it. It strengthens it. It's one of the most vital ways it uses itself, and one must stay very vigilant, must stay very present. You're not being judged. No. Because could I judge my fellow man? Have I had the biggest splinter in my eye? Leslie, no, I cannot. I turn the other cheek. They know not what they do. And that's what I said when I had my awakening. Forgive me, Father, for I knew not what I was doing. No one can judge here. There's no judgment here. There's no label. The judgment would simply be something that your ego is doing. That's behavior. That's behavior. It's no more than what I'm saying here, right? Resentments. Let's talk resentments. That's emotions. That's an emotion that goes without complaining, right? You've had a harbored resentment, and it's the mental labeling of a person, and it adds even more energy to your ego. So how many people do you know that hold resentments? I know many. And the ego, it loves it. And why does it love it? Because it strengthens itself through it. That's why. It wants to stay alive. One must stay very vigilant, present, consciousness to fight that off, right? And so I think the most positive way to do this is to be non-reactive to the ego and others, right? If I'm to be non-reactive to my situation, and I've tested it. And so this non-reaction to the ego in others is one of the most important and effective ways to go beyond the ego itself and to help dissolve the collective ego and to dissolve your own. You can only do this though if you are like staying in a state of non-reactiveness, right? Again, this is going to take vigilance on your part, right? And that's why I say ones that have had spiritual awakenings, some don't have the vigilance because they don't have the support system around them to maintain that vigilance. And so another reason why I'm putting these videos up. I can go to the grocery store. I can go to the bank. I can go to the groomers. I can go to anywhere I need to go, right? And I can see the egoic pattern in others. I watch it and I recognize it. And I know it's someone's behavior. And when it happens in me, I know it's my own behavior because I am the watcher. It's almost like I'm watching myself outside a window. I'm the seer, the watcher, right? And I see it and I recognize it's coming, right? And I know it's behavior. It's futile for me to respond in a reactive way to their behavior. Peace, darling. I can see it and recognize it's coming from the egoic self within them. I know its behavior, whether it's mine, theirs, or anyone else's. Behavior can be changed. Have I not been saying that for a very long time? Know better, do better, right? And I've said it since I put my channel up. Hit the mark, Jesus said. Hit the mark. I didn't know what hit the mark meant. I didn't even know what that meant. I did not know what it meant, hit the mark. So non-reaction, some people are going to say, well, what if I don't react? Then they're going to think I'm this or that. That's your ego telling you that. Because non-reaction is not a form of weakness. It's a form of strength. It's forgiveness. It's turning the other cheek, as Jesus would say. We, they, I know what to do. Please forgive me. They know not what they do. I tell you, by being non-reactive to the ego, you may bring out even insanity in other people because they want to know why you're not responding or reacting. And it's unconditional in them and it's unconscious and they don't even know they're doing it. And it's quite profound, interesting. And when I observe it, I'm like, wow. I can see that just as plain as the night or the day. The things, it's the things that I'm talking to you guys. This is very profound information, and it's not something that you can just wrap around your brain and analytically understand. I just want to mention, complaining shouldn't be confused with telling or informing someone if they've wronged you and they need to make a right. I'm not talking about that. So that's why I'm clarifying that. The things that the things, meaning the content we identify with, is again conditioned, and it's conditioned by your environment, your upbringing, your surroundings, your culture, your belief systems, what you were taught, etc., your traumas, your injuries, right? And whether you're rich, poor, sophisticated, smart, tall, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As far as the suffering goes, it doesn't matter. The suffering is because the suffering really is concealed. It's concealed in the word me, my, I. It's a structure. By the very essence of it, it's a structure. The unconscious compulsion to enhance one's identity through association with an object. That's what it means. It's built into the structure of the egoic mind. That's identification. That's the very form of identification. That's how you identify. It means the same thing it means the same as to make in Latin. So when we identify with something, You and I, we make it the same, right? The same. The same as what? As the sense of us. I, me, mine. I make it a sense of me, the same as I or me. It's not hard to understand. I know it's hard to understand. I know it's hard to understand. I struggle with it to make sense of it my fucking self. Trust me. 2 years. There's books that I've researched to back up what I'm saying here in this experience that I'm having. And the one book that I have been able to literally hold in my hands and use and incorporate through this is the Course in Miracles. And the only reason I can do that is because the assignments are really short and it's not a whole lot of reading and it's done on a daily basis. So it's not something I have to sit down and read for like an hour or two or to complete, right? Because the energy is moving so rapidly through me. It's hard to sit down and read a book because the downloads that are coming to me, Spirit's wanting manifested through me. And so they're hard and they're fast. And there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going with the flow and I'm enjoying every bit of it. It's pure consciousness. I don't identify with any content or form. I don't look or seek happiness, joy, and bliss in people, places, and things anymore. I just don't do it. It's futile and it doesn't serve me. What doesn't serve you is gone. And then when you sit in consciousness, the egoic mind begins to dissolve and die. It's beautiful. It's like magic, So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me for you guys to explain it. And I know it's hard to analytically understand. So don't try it. I'm struggling myself. And I had to come to a realization that I cannot analytically understand it. It's just a sense and a feeling inside of me. And it's like I intuitively know when things are coming before they come. It's like an intuitive hit, I'm calling it. That's what I call it. And it's like what I can say 2 days before someone's going to contact me or call me, I can say aloud to myself or to someone, hey, this person's going to call me. And 2 days later, they call me. The last experience I had was I said the sprinklers have to be changed and fixed by the gardener because he broke them. Not more than 2 hours later, the gardener showed up with his child riding a bike and said, I'm sorry I haven't been here. I'm going to come in 20 minutes to fix the sprinklers. I intuitively know what's coming before it even comes. And I don't know what to do with that all yet. So the books and the things that I'm researching to back up some of the things I'm able to find and locate in the experiences that they're talking about are the exact same thing. The Course in Miracles has helped me greatly. I will post a link for that book. It's been the only one I can read. It's been the only one I can read. And the assignments, like I said, are short, and I do them on a daily basis. And that book takes a whole year to do, a whole year. And my spiritual awakening is 2 years on the 28th of March, right? So I think some of the downloads I'm getting are like, I get sacred symbolism. I get pictures. I get if you will, almost like snapshots of like on those cameras that used to pull out and then they took a second to develop. When they first start coming into me, they're not quite as clear as they could be or should be to identify it. And then it's a process, and then it continues. That's the healing, and that's the sacred symbolism coming to me. And so it's been so blissful and so on point that I can't even begin to explain it. Right. And so that's why I do energy healing, because through healing other individuals, I heal. Right. And the more I heal, the more my consciousness rise. I can literally feel consciousness. It's up and it's up and down my body. It's a vibration that should be electrocuting me. The doctors can feel it when they hold my feet, checking pulses, or my hands. They can feel it. The clients tell me my Reiki is very, very strong. It's not me. It's not me. It's what consciousness, our creator, wants manifested through me, healing on a collective level. And how does that happen? Through other sentinel beings that are here in this human body, given those gifts, allowed to share them with others. And that's what I'm doing. Blessed are poor in spirit, Jesus said. There will be the kingdom of heaven. Do you know what that means? That means to be poor in spirit. Spirituality to me. Poor in spirit. So as a nurse, I want to touch a little bit on the ending of this and say that, does all this activity cause disease? Does disease come into my body because of all of these things that I just talked about? Well, disease means, in the Webster's dictionary, if I can quote it correctly, disease means a disorder or a disorder of structure or function in a human, in an animal, in a plant, or condition that prevents the body and mind from functioning normally. A problem that a person, group, or organization or society has, and it can't be stopped. I don't think you need to look around very hard just to see on a collective level that there is a huge dysfunction in the human mind with habitual mind patterns going on. There is a huge dysfunction going on in humanity with our plants, our animals, and our environment, right? And it can't be stopped on some level. So now let's define disease, okay? D-I-S-ease, okay? Nurses, doctors, healers use this term. It's used as a term of healing in that community. We healers are able to align the wellness in our clients by choosing to empower health issues in ourselves and in them by focusing on a particular ailment. The intent is to place an emphasis on the natural state of ease, being no imbalance or no disruption, right? So if you have a habitual mind pattern or thought that creates an emotion that results in a negative problem that causes you suffering, pain, it causes a constant flux in the body, and it does cause disease. That constant flux, your body cannot maintain homeostasis. Most people run on a flux of fight or flight syndrome on the autonomic nervous system. They don't do it 100% of the time because the body wouldn't be able to sustain itself, but they do it a lot of the time. So it's a normal habitual pattern for them, right? So the intent places a huge amount of emphasis on it, right? The intent is an emphasis that on the natural state of ease, causing that imbalance or that disruption in your mind, your psyche, your spirit, or your body. And over a prolonged period of time, no, thank you, sir. No, thank you. Spirit's here. No, thank you.
Okay.
That's why the fuck up. So that constant flux will cause an imbalance. And that imbalance causes a disruption in your human body. And contrary to what you want to believe or not, I'm not trying to change your beliefs. Your human body is a machine. If you do not sustain it properly with the elements that's required for it, and you constantly have an intent with an emphasis to place negativity, suffering, or harm upon it, that natural state of dis-ease causes that imbalance or that disruption. And now you have insomnia, anxiety, depression. You won't heal. You're aging fast. You can't sleep. I could name off a gamut of things. So some of the reasons my client come to me are for those very reasons. They're done taking Xanax for anxiety or sleep medication for sleep. They're done taking stuff for pain or a gamut of other things. And so I'm able to clear their meridians with a natural state of ease where I can create a balance in their body and promote homeostasis, and they get off meds and they start doing the modalities that I give them, and they have results. And so this is another reason why I'm teaching this. If you have this habitual mind pattern of thought, it's going to create an emotion in you. Thought is emotion. Thought, emotion follows it by the very essence. They go hand in hand. And that emotion is going to cause a negative or positive within you, in your body, and you are going to respond accordingly. And it's generally going to be based on your egoic self. And sometimes 90% of the time that I've seen, it creates a negative outcome that creates suffering to you and the people around you. And that causes the constant flux in your body, not only in yours, but in the people that you're dealing with. If you're on a, if you're married, if you are doing that to yourself with, and one partner's not awake and the other, which I'm not finding many people awakened. So it's, you're sharing that energy back and forth. So you're doing each other a disservice, not a service. And it's not until you become aware that you will have awareness. That's why they call it awareness. That's why they call it unconsciousness. This is one of the biggest reasons why I want to teach this, right? Many of the common disorders that people are experiencing is due to that constant flux. Anxiety, depression, anxiety, depression, anxiety, depression. I don't know how many times I have to say it. Insomnia, isolating. I've even seen patients who cut themselves, to mention a few. They cut themselves because it says that it eases their emotional pain. You know, they have an extremely heavy pain body, and it is my desire to free them from that. Healers help assist clients back into homeostasis, right? And I'm not saying that disease isn't caused by many things. Our genetic makeup, our DNA markers, our genes, our habits, to name a few: smoking, drinking, no exercise, being unhealthy, not eating well, habitually thinking. Those are all things that can contribute to disease. But the science books are giving you all those things, that factual information. They've never told you that disease could occur in your body if you had a habitual mind pattern that created negative outcome for you, that created you physical suffering. They never told you that, did they? They never told me that. It plays a role. My role is to teach you. My role is to show you what consciousness wants me to show you: oneness, to show you how to quiet the mind. Now place our not place your habitual thoughts on top. Don't always run to that habitual mind pattern. Catch yourself. Right? To feel the body, the essence of yourself. It's like to go within, to meet your soul. Those are the things I want to teach you. You are real. If you have no physical suffering, that is beautiful. You want to quit yourself. That's really sad. Breathing techniques, Ganja. Proper breathing techniques is key. Mindful meditation. Breathing pattern, the prana breathing pattern that we breathe, that is one of the most best ways to get into consciousness. And do you know, if you practice it, within 3 days, your autonomic nervous system will just pick it up automatically. Your body's a machine. Let me ask you something. If you keep teaching yourself the negative things that create negative outcomes, that create suffering, and you never teach yourself anything different, are you going to ever have a different outcome? Cheers to you, Bear Ground. You are never going to have another outcome. It's always going to be the same outcome. And what are you going to do? You're going to mirror that off of other people around you and tell them, oh, it's your fault. You did it. You made me do it. You caused that to happen. And it's the egoic self. It's the egoic mind. If you can recognize it the minute it happens and not react. Like, let's say, I can only use my experience, okay? I can only use my experience. We have the capacity of doing that, Leslie. We have the capacity of doing that. I was pretty upset about a situation that I was dealing with. And it had to do with a pretty volatile person that has been in my life in the past. And I had done everything I possibly could do to stay conscious, to stay present, because I kind of toggle between consciousness and unconsciousness. And the unconsciousness is when the egoic self is trying to renew itself, and I'm aware of that in its behavior, and I catch it, and I stop it in its tracks, and it backs off and dies further. But this day, I responded. I didn't respond, I reacted. And I reacted in a very profound way because to me, it showed me, because I am the seer, right? I'm like looking out my eyes from a window. It showed me the habitual reactive pattern that my body, mind, and soul was trained, taught, lived, and operated on. And it was profound. So it happened for a reason. And I stopped in my tracks. And that person who's known me for 30 years couldn't believe it. They walked away shaking their head. I can't explain it. It's consciousness rising. It's consciousness rising. It's not me. It's not me. I'm only here to give what she's telling me to give. I'm only here to play a role as a conduit. And this body that I house is a vehicle. It's not who I am. I am, therefore I am consciousness. I don't need anyone to tell me that. I know. I know. I know. I know. I don't even know. Fuck, I don't know. I know. I know. And if I am responding in a negative way, it's generally a habitual mind pattern I was taught, and it's still a little bit of residual. And as I stated in the beginning of the video, they are very short-lived and very, very occasional. They're almost not there. It's almost effortless. It's almost as if spirit plugs me into an outlet in the morning, taps me in. I'm tuned in, tapped in, and plugged in, right? And at night, She holds me in suspension while I sleep, and my autonomic nervous system wakes me in the morning. I can say to myself before I go to bed that my autonomic nervous system will wake me at 4, and it will wake me at 4 on the dot. I can't analytically explain that. I don't think anybody can. I don't think anybody can. Does anybody have questions? I know it's a lot to handle. I never sleep and it sucks. That would suck. Leslie, don't be so negative. You're sleepwalking. You're sleepwalking. Well, if no one has any questions, I do appreciate you so much for indulging me for this hour. I'm Star Delta 9. If you know if any like-minded individuals that would like to be up on panel, 555 on the camera, not an idiosyncrasy at all. Consciousness. The links are always available to anyone that chooses to be on panel. Any like-minded individual is available and wants to come on panel. I welcome them to, because through their experience, strength, and hope, I learn and I gain more knowledge about who I am as a soul as well. And so it's a win-win situation. So I want to emphasize to you guys again, there is no separateness. That is the very first illusion that your mind is telling you, that there is separateness from you, people, places, and things. It's oneness. It's consciousness. And your journey, I'm just going to call it that, you're unconscious of things that you're doing until you're conscious. It is compulsive, and it is right on point, and your ego is not going to miss a beat, right? So you as an individual, the key thing I can leave you with is not to be reactive to the ego when others light you up, let's say, or cause a problem. Look and see if you can see the egoic pattern in yourself and catch it. Be the witness. Be the observer. And if you can catch it, you might not be able to stop it, and that's okay. But if you can catch it and just acknowledge it, then that's a beautiful thing, and it's a positive thing, and consciousness will increase and the ego will die some at that point. And every time you catch it, it will die further and further and further, and consciousness will rise and rise and rise. So if you're going about your day and you're harboring resentments or pain or woes or worries or past problems from your upbringing or habitual mind pattern or beliefs, and you're not aware, see if you can become aware of your reaction and catch it. And then tell yourself, that's behavior. Now I can change behavior, right? And what have I been saying since I put my channel up? When we know better, we do better. So I'm Star Delta 9. Please sound off in the comment section below. You know that's your section. Hit that bell, otherwise you're not going to get notification of any videos that I put up, and I'm putting up quite a lot. Give me a solid thumbs up if you like this video and any of it resonates. If it didn't, that's okay too. You're not ready to hear it, you'll store the information for later. I will see you guys next week on another video of Cracked Wide Open. If you have questions and you want to reach out to me, my emails are down in the tags below. Namaste. Thank you for stopping in.